Hi, thanks for joining us on another podcast. This is Seth Bloom with Bloom Legal.
David Gremillion. Hey, everybody. How are y'all?
Oh, I hope they're doing good. And I guess a topic that we get a lot, we're criminal defense lawyers, so people always ask us about expungements. What an expungement is, who's eligible, what it really means. So maybe, David, you could talk a little about expungements, how they work in state court versus municipal court.
Sure.
Just to start off with,
Yeah.
if you have a federal crime, though, you're not eligible for expungement.
Yeah. And, we do a lot of expungements here, and we are able to evaluate your case if you call us and tell us what you're trying to get expunged, if you're eligible. But the first and foremost, we tell every client whether you're eligible or not, but obviously if you are eligible for an expungement, it is not a perfect erase. What an expungement does is seal the public record of any mugshots, police reports, fingerprints, so that it's not accessible to the public.
And we get calls sometimes. I think you were right on with that point about not being a perfect erase. I mean, since 9/11, when you're arrested, when you're fingerprinted, when they take a photo of you, you go in the NCIC national database.
Yep.
The expungement will take it out of every database that's available
To the public record.
But having said that, if you apply for the FBI or someone that does a very thorough background check, then it probably could still show up. But it's the only mechanism
And the
best in order to have this removed from your record. I think one thing is people call us up and they say, well, it's 2019 now. I got a DWI in 2001. Well, that DWI has been sitting in records, and more records have been created in those 18 years. So it's important, as soon as you're eligible, we can talk about the timing of when you're eligible for an expungement.
Sure.
It is certainly advised.
Get it done as quickly as possible. And whether we handle your criminal case or not, I know any case we handle, if there is any kind of guilty plea or if you go to trial and are found guilty, if you're eligible for what's called Article 894, which is for misdemeanors, or 893, which is for a first-time felony. Those are specific code articles in Louisiana that allow you to get the crime expunged earlier. Typically, you would have to wait 5 years after the end of your sentence, not conviction, but the end of your probation, to get a misdemeanor expunged, and 10 years for a felony. However, Articles 893 and 894, respectively, allow you to apply for an expungement as soon as probation is over. So you don't have to wait that 5-10 years.
I think one mistake is people call us all the time and they say, my case was expunged. Mm-hmm. And usually what that means is when they pled guilty, the judge gave them either 893 or 894 and told them that it was expungible. And they think just by an audit, like when they're off probation,
I think it's automatic.
It's automatic.
And some states have that. We don't.
Or the other issue is people call up and say, can you do it yourself? Well, I mean, you could do a lot of things yourself. I could re-roof my house myself. And certainly there are instances if you have the time and want to spend hours. But it's not a complicated procedure, but it's an entailed procedure.
Mm-hmm. Every court is different.
Every court's different. We need your criminal records background check. We need FBI fingerprints. Mm-hmm. We have to file an actual legal motion that's got to be signed by the district attorney. It's got to be signed by the judge. And often, especially if the case is a felony, they're going to want a conflict hearing. So we actually do a hearing many times. So there's a lot of lawyering involved there. I wouldn't suggest doing it myself.
Exactly. And as Seth mentioned, the district attorney. The district attorney's office could object to an expungement. So could the state police. So we would have to have a full-blown hearing at that point to try and convince a judge why we are correct and that crime should be expunged. Another important thing that we get calls about often is someone's applying for a job and they say, hey, this popped up on my background check, or this is on my background and I'm applying for this job.
Dave, I thought you were a good lawyer. You can knock it out in 2 days, right?
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Under Louisiana law, even if I filed everything that same day, there's a minimum 60-day waiting period. And it takes some time to get all the records and the proper motions prepared. So, you're looking at minimum, 3 months to complete it if everything goes smoothly,
right?
Potentially longer.
So if you're calling us and you're applying for a job next week, you should still start the process because eventually you want it off your record, but it's not going to be off. It takes a number of weeks or months to get it done in New Orleans or wherever your case is, and then it has to go to Baton Rouge and it has to come out of the state system. And look, I'll tell you what, some of our angriest clients, and I don't want to. We have a lot of they're often satisfied, but we have a lot of clients that are frustrated that take so long. And before I do an expungement, I say, we will file everything as timely as we can, but I cannot push the bureaucracy of the court where it's located in, and certainly I can't push the bureaucracy of the Louisiana State Police in Baton Rouge. So you should get it done, but it's best to get it done when you're not in a rush, and it's best to get it done as soon as you're eligible.
Yeah, and anyone can go on Google and Google background checks and have 20 different websites that will do a background check for you. And some of those websites have computers that are just mining data constantly and compiling records. And so that is why it's important to get it done quickly, as Seth was saying, because, in 2 years, what have you, that system could have found your public records, updated it, and it may still be out there, even though it's taken away from the public record on these private databases.
And here's the question we get a lot. What is eligible, David, for expungement? Is everything if I murdered someone, can I get that expunged after I get out of jail?
That is not expungible. Any violent felony crime is not expungible. Sex crimes, domestic violence, whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, are not expungible.
And the Louisiana Louisiana Criminal Code enumerates these specific crimes.
Exactly.
So you want to ask your lawyer before, if you have to plead guilty or lose a trial, you want to see if this is an expungible offense, because that may navigate, how you defend the case.
Absolutely, and you want an experienced attorney who's handled a lot of expungements, because I've seen attorneys and judges not necessarily know that a specific crime is not expungible, and they'll say that on the outset at the plea, and then 2-3 years later you go file for the expungement, and the state police objects to it because it's not expungible, and so then you run into an issue of that being part of the plea and it not being legally available to you. That's a whole other topic for another podcast. But anyway, you definitely want to have your case evaluated by an experienced expungement attorney. We will definitely look at your case for you. Give us a call if you have any questions, 504-599-9997. Seth or I would be happy to discuss your case with you.
Yeah, check us out, bloomlegal.com, and have a great day. And we're happy to take a look at any case you've had to expunge your record.